please be upstanding for the prayer. Almighty God, we who are gathered together in council pledge ourselves to work in harmony for the welfare and development of our rural city. Guide us, we pray, in our deliberations. Help us to be fair in our judgment and wise in our actions, so that prosperity and happiness shall be the lot of our people. Amen. Mildura Rural City Council acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of land which now comprises the Mildura Rural City Municipality. We pay our respects to elders past and present and celebrate and respect their continuing cultures and acknowledge the memories of their ancestors. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the July Ordinary Council meeting this Thursday, 25th of July 2024. I welcome councillors, management staff and members of the public that join us here tonight. I also welcome those members of the public viewing the live stream online or watching this recording at a later time. This meeting is being live streamed on Council's website. The meeting recording will be published on the same site within 48 hours of this meeting concluding. Tonight at item 18 we'll be considering 3 confidential reports. The live stream will conclude once Council resolves to move into confidential business. This aspect of the recording will not be made available on our website. Thank you. Item 3, those who are present. Tonight we have Deputy Mayor Mark Eckel, Councillor Helen Healy, Councillor Jason Monica, Councillor Troy Bailey, Councillor Stefano Di Pieri, Councillor Glenn Milne and Councillor Jodie Reynolds, CEO Martin Hawson, General Manager Strategy and Growth Peter Alexander, General Manager Healthy Communities Mark Jenkins, General Manager Infrastructure and Assets Darryl Morgan, General Manager Corporate Performance Kate Henschke and Governance Coordinator Simone Loveridge. Item 4, apologies and absences. Councillor Iannani has sent his apologies for tonight's meeting. We'll have a mover. Councillor Eckel, seconder. Councillor Monica. Anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 5, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any councillors who would like to disclose a conflict of interest for upcoming items in tonight's agenda? Councillor Di Pieri?
The item to do with the speed.
Certainly. Yep. Thank you. Item 6, confirmation of minutes. We have the following minutes to confirm tonight. Ordinary meeting of council minutes for the meeting held on the 27th of June 2024. Confidential meeting of council minutes for the meeting held on 27th of June 2024. And planned delegated committee meeting minutes for the meeting held on the 11th of July 2024. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Mayor.
Councillor Eckel, Councillor Di Pieri. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? Councillor Healy?
Sorry, I was distracted by the talk.
The motion is carried. Item 7, confirmation of council auspice meetings. We have records for the 3 council auspice meetings to note tonight. They are from the following meetings: Audit and Risk Committee 8th of July 2024, Council Forum 11th of July 2024 and Planning Delegated Committee 11th of July 2024. Do I have a mover? Councillor Milne, a seconder. Councillor Reynolds. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8, notification of absence. Would any councillors like to notify council of upcoming absences? There are none. Item 9, Mayor Report, 9.1 Mayor Report, June 2024. The council note the contents of this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Di Pieri, seconder. Councillor Monica. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? Motion is carried. Item 10, council reports. I invite any councillors who would like to speak to their reports to raise their hand. We'll go around the room, starting with you, Councillor Healy.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. First of all, two points. One is I just wanted to report back that there is a lot of enthusiasm in the community, particularly the hospitality, retail and accommodation sector, around the exciting announcement around tourism that's occurring on the 4th of August. There's a bit of a buzz out there and I hope everybody attends to share in this new era in our promotions nationally and globally. Secondly, I another future event, I want to draw everyone's attention to an exciting concert on Sunday at 6:30. Siobhan Stagg is coming home to perform. The last time we saw her perform in Mildura, Councillor De Pieri and I were involved in the Murray River International Music Festival, where she was programmed to perform alongside some Italian opera singers, and she was quite young. It's wonderful to see her back performing here. It's wonderful to see her fulfil her dream to perform in the Sydney Opera House. And it's also additionally wonderful that we have her here to formally acknowledge that she is the most recent recipient of the Keys to the City, which have been awarded to her to acknowledge her global career and the attention she's brought to not only the art form but also to us in Mildura. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
If you don't mind, could we just maybe remind the people in the gallery
Yeah,
that
I was just about to.
we can hear what they're
Yeah,
saying, and if they
yeah.
could actually just keep quiet, that'd be great. Thanks.
Excuse me, those in the gallery, can we please be quiet? Show some respect. Thank you. Councillor De Pieri. Councillor Eckel.
I'm going to keep the flame burning as far as the tourism is concerned, because I'm delighted to tell the councillors and the community that the slow train trip, which is coming on the 15th through to the 18th, they've got 168 and they're knocking back people. So it's certainly
another carriage.
certainly no, they can't. No, and it's rolling stock too that we're missing, unfortunately, with previous governments getting rid of our trains. But anyway, Councillor De Pieri, that's the fact. The special nature of this trip is the train will be travelling down the Mallee track to Murrayville on the Saturday from Mildura. And Matt Lucas, the volunteer organiser, is hoping that the Oyen, Underbill and Murrayville townships will come and meet the train. We had a meeting down there the other night at Underbill, and I made my feelings felt down there, and they were very excited about it, and even said that there's a football match down there. I don't know whether the train's going to stop for the football match, but that's terrific, and the enthusiasm's great. So I also received an email from the Northern Grampians Shire Council, and their full support for the train, and how they're providing packages as well to enthrall the people down there. And of course, I don't know if you know, but they've got a railway museum down there, and of course the silo art is a terrific acquisition too. The Pink Lakes is on the itinerary, and I was really happy to hear Jackie Lawson, that I've been in touch with at the paper down there. She's a big advocate for the Cow Plains homestead, and that's going to be on the agenda. So that's fantastic, because I don't think that we highlight the significance of that particular location. So that'll be terrific, and there'll be a bus going out to Pink Lakes, and also when they arrive here on the Saturday, on the Friday, on the Saturday, to take about 50 off the train, so they can possibly have room for locals. There'll be a bus going out to Lake Mungo, and the Chaffey Trail people will be taking them on tours around Mildura. Finally, I'd like to bring to the council's attention that Tricia Curry is retiring from Women's Health Loddon Mallee after 9 years as the CEO. And I just want to recognise her remarkable contribution over those 9 years in the position. And Tricia has enriched the lives of many women in our region and beyond. And there's a special function for her today down there at Bendigo, but there will be one here on the 29th if any of the councillors like to attend. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey?
I just wanted to bring to light the improved mental health services that have started in Mildura and that are coming. I think that we have some very serious issues in this town with getting access to services for mental health, but with the opening of the Mildura Mental Health and Wellbeing Local, a service in Mildura that's free. It's a walk-in service, and they're just getting established, but they'll be able to provide clinical services to the community and also psychiatry services at all levels of it, but it will be a very simple, very open service that's getting established in Mildura now, which is an amazing service for the community, and it's operated by the Mildura-based public hospital, St Regis Community Health Services, Mallee District Aboriginal Service and Wellways Australia. So I think that's a fantastic addition to this community's mental health services. And then on adding to that, what we've heard recently is the soon-to-be-announced Alcohol and Drug Rehabilitation Centre in Mildura. That's just going to complete that picture of staging and that stepping of services, stepping of response that people need in this community to deal with alcohol and drugs of addiction. So I think it's going to be a very exciting time in Mildura to finally have the services that we need to support people with mental health conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Reynolds, do you have? No? Councillor Monica?
Thanks, Mayor Wood. I was lucky enough to be invited to do a shift at the volunteer toy library down at Mansell Reserve on Tuesday. It was absolutely fantastic. I think they've been servicing for Mildura for over 20 years, and they have their location in Mansell Reserve, and they have a location in Redcliffs, which will go into the new Early Learning Centre when that's finished. Kylie McBain has done a really good job down there to bring the library back up to a level that people are beginning to engage with, and there's been a national campaign to encourage families to join their local toy library. So I just wanted to make people aware for that. The two locations, it's great. I was there for an hour and a half. Great chats, lots of people coming in and out. Glenn, you would have loved it because they were saying, oh, this computer's so easy to use. You can just punch it in. You can drag up all the toys that they have. They get washed every time that they come. It could have been.
Extra-sketch.
So it was really important to see, and they were really talking about people who don't feel they need to buy a lot of toys, but then there's a great selection of toys from very large and very small, and it's giving families a great opportunity to go in and look at a catalogue of things and take them home for their kids for 2 weeks to a month and take them back. All support to them, and they're doing a very great job down there at the toy library.
Yeah, the CEO and myself also volunteered now there, and there was lots and lots of people going in and out, so it was great to see. One of those great little things that happen in our community that sometimes get missed. So, Councillor Mill.
Oh, one more quick thing.
Yep.
Sorry, Glenn. They won an award, a national award in May, which is really worth acknowledging too, because it is all on volunteer labour, and I really would like to emphasise that.
Cheers.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of our 2017 Citizen of the Year, Graham Colonel, as he was known, Wyatt from Murrayville. Fantastic contributor to that community. He was an ambulance officer, Country Fire Authority volunteer, an awarded scout leader, life member of the Murrayville Football Netball Club. Just an amazing contributor, which is why he won the 2017 Citizen of the Year. So our thoughts are with the family, with the Wyatt family. Mr Mayor, I'd also like to raise the issue of Fitzroy Avenue and Calder Highway intersection. Another crash there, I think Tuesday night. You know, our road system's falling apart, and yeah, anything we can do to get that Calder Highway fixed, it really needs some work on it. The next one was, I have recently asked a question on the Michael Freeman Park. It's a park named after a great contributor to our community again, and seeking a starting date. There isn't one at the moment, but it is subject to a capital works submission or a future capital works submission, so hopefully that gets underway fairly soon. The last thing I'd like to mention is the Senate inquiry into regional banking, which Council put in a submission to. I personally put a submission in to it. The findings are out and the recommendations. If you want to do a bit of light reading, it's 200 pages. There were 600 submissions, but I'd just like to read out one recommendation. There's about 8. It's worth having a look. But I think this is a really good recommendation. It's 5.56. In enforcing the mandatory banking code outlined in recommendation 3, the committee recommends that the regulator be authorised to approve or defer any closure request. In deferring a closure, the regulator will be authorised to direct a bank to take certain reasonable actions, including to order further consultation or provide additional information to the regulator. Now, that's about shutting regional banks. And the Senator's saying, and the report is saying, that the community needs to be consulted and there needs to be some rules around whether the banks can shut down services. And given our small towns and our area and what we're seeing in the banking sector, it's a good thing. So it's worth reading that report, and there's some fairly positive recommendations coming out of that to look after regional cities and banking services and ensure people have ensure there's some cash available and that they can do their banking locally. So that's it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Councillor Monica. A seconder? Councillor Milne. I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 11, responses to council questions. And there are no responses to councillor questions. Item 12, questions from councillors. And I'll now pass on to Councillor Milne to ask his question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can council have a list of council's project obligations under the DCP, including the financial cost and the timelines to complete the projects, so they meet council's obligations under that DCP policy?
General Manager Corporate, Kate.
Thank you. So just for context, anyone that doesn't know council lingo, DCP is Developer Contribution Plan. I don't know whether you said that in full. We're so used to acronyms. So there's a bit of info here. The listing of the actual projects is found on council's website, so I can flick you through a link. And as Councillor Milne says, there is some time imperatives in that council's DCP projects are due for completion by 2030, but this is dependent on the development and hitting certain demand triggers. From a reporting perspective, we have to submit an annual report to the Minister for Planning, so we're working on that at the moment, and we can certainly provide that information to Councillor Milne when it's finalised, and it includes the amount of contributions collected, the amount spent, a summary of any of the projects funded, and the balance of contributions held by council. But I guess further to Councillor Milne's question, we've actually, in the very early stages of doing a review of our current DCP process and system, that's sort of from the inception to the delivery of projects. So we're about to engage, we're calling it a DCP health check, and we're going to do some work to actually review the health of our DCP, particularly as we get closer to that 2030 date. It's unlikely to be completed before caretaker, but we'll certainly bring a summary back to Forum once that review is completed.
Yeah, thanks very much for that.
Thanks, Councillor Milne. I'll now move on to item 13, notice of motion, and there are no notices of motion. Item 14, petitions, joint letters and deputations, and there are none. Item 15, management reports, so we'll now move on to considering the management reports. 15.1, amendment to council meeting dates 2024. I'll just pass on to the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before we get into this debate, we got advised early this week, conveniently after the agenda went out, when the declaration of the election will be available to us, and that won't be until the 12th of November. So we thought it was prudent to actually change the date that is listed in point 2 in the recommendation. Currently it suggests that we have our annual general meeting on the 14th, with the declaration only being a very short time. That gives councillors and any new councillors a very short space of time to prepare for that meeting and be prepared for that meeting. So we're proposing that we shift that annual general meeting out to the 21st of November. So that
that point 2 in the recommendation would read that council reschedule the 7th of November 2024 annual council meeting to the 21st of November 2024, subject to the confirmation of election results. It's just to give you more time. Whoever is successful, the successful candidates give you more time, and just having less than a week probably isn't appropriate. So that's why we've made that administrative change. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move on to the corrected recommendation that Council 1 amend the Council's meeting schedule to remove the 26th of September 2024 and the 24th of October 2024 meetings, noting that unscheduled special council meetings may be called if required, and 2, reschedule the 7th of November 2024 annual council meeting to the 21st of November 2024, subject to confirmation of election results. Do I have a mover?
Happy to move that change.
Councillor Monica. Seconder, Councillor Eckel. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 15.2, Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson's Biannual Report to Council, 1st of January to the 30th of June 2024. Recommendation that Council receive the Internal Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson's Biannual Report for the 6-month period from the 1st of January to the 30th of June 2024. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Eckel. A seconder? Councillor Reynolds. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 15.3, Borrowing Policy CP072. Recommendation that Council adopt the updated Borrowing Policy CP072 reviewed in June 2024 as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Reynolds. A seconder? Councillor De Pieri. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 15.4, Adoption of Crime Prevention through Environmental Design Policy CP036. Recommendation that Council adopt the updated Crime Prevention through Environmental Design Policy CP036 reviewed June 2024 as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Healy. A seconder? Councillor Mill. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Healy.
Just briefly, Councillor Wood, there's not many changes in the document, but I'm very pleased to see for the first time the inclusion of the UK document, Safer Parks Improving Access for Women and Girls, to address some of those inequities of access and security around particularly nighttime sport in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak for the motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 15.5, Mildura CBD speed limit trial, and Councillor De Pieri has a conflict. Recommendation that Council 1, note the content of this report, 2, confirm that the 30-kilometre speed limit for the trial area is appropriate based on the traffic data and road safety principles identified in this report, and 3, forward a copy of this report to the Department of Transport and Planning. Do I have a mover? Councillor Healy. A seconder? Councillor Reynolds. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I will start the debate off with Councillor Healy.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I think with this actual trial that we've had, what stood out for me is that the data tells us that by reducing the speed limit by 10 kilometres per hour, we're almost doubling the chances of survival in the event of a pedestrian hit by a car. And if that's not enough reason to implement this, it could be you, it could be someone you love. That's a very compelling reason for me. But more to the governance of this document, 2 really important considerations. One is, it's important that we look at our CBD not as a place that we quickly pass through. It's actually a destination. It's a place we gather. It's a place we go to. So slowing down to go to that place makes a lot of sense. Thirdly, really importantly, is that we sit under a lot of legislation with state government, and the conditions of this trial actually required us to adhere to 3 criteria to evaluate this trial. And one was the evidence-based road safety principles, tick. One was traffic and pedestrian data, all good. The third one was community, trader and sentiment. And that was 60% against and 30% for. And we know from experience, and I've banged on about this for a long time around community engagement, that sometimes we get the negative people actually having the biggest say in some of our engagement processes. So in the last few days, I've done my homework and I've contacted a number of City Heart traders. None of them are friends of mine, and I got 4 responses. 1, peak traffic times couldn't exceed 30 anyway, so in favour of it being implemented permanently. 2, to be honest, it hasn't really affected me. I don't think you really go over 30 anyway. I haven't noticed a difference. If someone wants to go faster, like showing off, I don't think it would matter to them if it was 30 or 40. Safety-wise, I don't know if it's had an impact. 3, I've not heard a lot of feedback from others, but I'll always be in favour of lower speed limits personally. I've seen a lot of near misses with kids and elderly out the front of my shop over the years. And 4, the change has barely been noticed since it was implemented. I asked all 4 if they had actually engaged in the community engagement, and they said no, which I had a word to them about that, because it's really important when we do have community engagement that we get the whole community giving their opinion so we have a balanced response to the questions. So I'm in favour of this and I'll rest my case there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Healy. Councillor Reynolds as a seconder.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. I think the main thing for me in this report is, as Councillor Healy's already pointed out, the evidence is there for slowing the traffic down, not only from a safety point of view, but from a strategic point of view about where we want to go as a council, where we want to go as a place. So the evidence is there to do this. Secondly, for me, as Councillor Healy has said, the opportunity was there specifically for traders to tell the council what they thought about this proposal. There were 400 opportunities sent out for traders to respond, and in the first instance, 20 of them did. And in the second instance, after the 30 limit trial had gone ahead, 8 of them did. So what this tells me, what this consultation tells me, is that over 95% of traders don't really have a view about this one way or the other. And I cannot possibly make a decision based on the community evidence from that survey. So my decision is going to be based on the evidence that I've got in front of me that's scientific, and the evidence that and my own feelings about what I want for this place. So from that point of view, that's what I'll be basing my decision on tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Milne.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I would start off with drawing everybody's attention to page 105, and that's the end page of a statement from Mark McDonald, Sergeant at Officer in Charge of Mildura Highway Patrol. And he says, as far as the Mildura Highway Patrol is concerned, there hasn't really been any change. I've had little to no feedback from community, and I'm not aware of any incidents that we were required to attend. It is difficult to enforce speed limits within the CBD areas due to the heavy traffic and generally target our patrols to high-speed intersections and general roads and highways where road trauma is more prevalent. His report also says that there was 23 collisions in the 12 months of the trial, and there was 23 collisions in the 12 months before that, so little or no difference. We've been out and talked to the community. 31%, the report calls it a large minority, but a large minority of 31% won't get you elected in a 2-horse race. 69% will, and the 69% of our community said that they're against it. Now, we're supposed to listen to our community, and we've been out, consulted, but now we're going to try and tell them, yeah, we've heard the majority of you don't want this, but we're going to vote with the minority because they want it. And I don't think it washes. The report also talks about the effect on the CBD, that there's now less people going into the CBD. And it says that, you know, you can hardly draw a line between that and the lower speed limit, that people are going there because they don't like the speed limits. Well, I've also talked to a lot of people, a lot of elderly people, and they don't come to the CBD anymore because there's too many things to concentrate on. There's 10Ks, 20Ks, 30Ks, 40Ks, 50Ks, 60Ks, all around the CBD. And they get confused, they don't like having to look at their speedo and not at the road, they're scared of having accidents. So I believe from that, those discussions, that it is having an effect on the CBD. When you consider that the police aren't or can't enforce it, when you look at the community doesn't want it, it all boils down to if somebody gets hit by a car at 30 kilometres an hour rather than a little bit faster, then there'll be less damage caused to them. And that then, you know, brings a concern, well, you know, we've got more shoppers out on 15th Street and there's a 60 kilometre and an 80 kilometre zone there, right through the middle of that shopping centre. And they seem to be doing it fairly safely out there. There's no concern in the community, even by council, for shoppers in that area. Where do you draw the line? If you listen to the police, they're out, there's many dangerous intersections. If we're concerned about people's safety, we should be doing a lot more about our intersections where the people are really getting injured, killed, maimed, etc., not in our CBD.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Modica.
You're just supporting the data analysis-driven decision-making process. I'll just read a few things and then make a comment. Low-speed streets are about much more than road safety and increasing fine revenue. By building safer streets, governments and cities around the world are creating more livable cities. The benefits include lower crime levels, more physical activity from citizens, greater social connectivity, increased spending in local businesses and much less pollution. Leadership is needed to counter the myths surrounding the 30-kilometre speed limits that are misinforming the public and public opinion. As part of the Streets for Life campaign for Global Road Safety Week, the United Nations has busted international myths surrounding the 30-kilometre zone. The article below continues to explain and debunk the myths around the 30 kilometres. I won't go into that because it all can be read on the agenda, or you could jump online and look at the Global Road Safety Week webpage, which is very, very good. Where we are here is we do need cars, we do need traffic, but there's an opportunity for us to step back into our previous selves and have open spaces for people. And when you reduce it to 30 kilometres, you make people feel more comfortable. People walk through your CBD, whether it's the one here. I'm not sure whether there's a 60-kilometre zone in Centro Glen, but we can go and look at that together if you like. There's so much that can be done if we work within the parameters of a good decision that's recalibrated, that has gone to the public, but on not all occasions does the public get it right, as we don't. So we need to bring that into consideration and work through those things. It's been there for 12 months. Nobody's noticed it. Leave it at 30 and save a few lives if we have an accident. Thank you very much.
Another four, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, certainly. Can we keep it to quiet, please? I won't ask you again, otherwise you can leave, yeah?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think that Councillor Reynolds hit the nail on the head. The issue that I've had, I had it in the room here when we had the people and when we had staff presenting it to us, the consultation process. Look, to the incoming council, something's got to be done about the communication strategy and getting the information back from the community so you get raw material that's comparable. Like, it's just ridiculous, you know. as you said, as Councillor Reynolds said, 400 with, I think, 10 replies or something. Now, if we've got a proactive, and thanks to Councillor Healy going around, but that achieves nothing. What you've got to do is you've got to pay attention to all the money that's spent in doing these studies, state government funding, our own money that we put in from our budget. And if you go and have a look at the signage, you ever see how much signage that we've got to put up for the changes and all that sort of stuff? Like, we've got to be fair income when we go out to the community and talk about 15th Street. Don't talk about 15th Street and compare it to Mildura, City Heart, because they're getting millions of dollars, the state government, from the speeding camera out there in 15th Street. So, I don't know about people obeying the road laws out there. And the other thing is, don't make brush statements about the community not coming to the City Heart. They are coming to the City Heart. And that mall is as popular as it's ever been. And so is Feast Street. So the issue is we are having more people coming in, and they don't care two hoots. Honestly, it's a polarising subject, this. The people that I speak to don't
Point
have
of order,
two hoots,
Mr. Mayor.
whether it's 30 or 40.
What's that, Glenn?
The report actually says that there was less people coming over that period. It's not a brush statement by me. It's in the report.
It's not tied to the speed limit,
No.
though. You said that yourself.
No, but there's less people. He said, don't tell me there's less people coming.
Okay.
There is.
There's no point of order there, because I can tell you that
It's not for you to decide, Councillor
It's up
Eccles.
to it's up to the individual. There's been statements made here that aren't in the report by each councillor. So don't come that with me. The issue is that we all talk to the community, and the City Heart is going great guns at the moment. So that's the statement I'm saying. It's not, and I don't care what that section of the report says. And the traders had the opportunity to speak up in regards to that too, and didn't take that opportunity. So what I'm saying, bottom line, is that I'm going with the recommendation, as the other councillors have said, because of the statistics that have been put together, and with the utilisation of the stats that have come in from the community and from the CBD, that's a professional recommendation. What we're discussing here and what we'll decide on if it's 40 is just the status quo. Why go through the consultation process and spend all that money?
Thank you, Councillor Eccles. Anyone else speak against the motion?
A point of clarification, if that's okay,
Yep,
Mr. Mayor.
certainly.
So, just to clarify, and if I can just get this, make sure I've got this right from the staff, but there's 2 points here, and one is that there is less through traffic from the CBD, which I understand was presented to us when we were actually having this conversation, which is part of what we want to happen. We don't want people driving down 8th
Mr. Mayor,
Street.
point of order. The councillor's had her.
She's asking a question.
It doesn't
Glenn.
sound like a question.
Well, Glenn, that's not up to you, mate.
There's rules in debate, Mr.
Glenn.
Mayor.
Yeah, and I'll make them, so I'll let her
No,
speak.
you don't make them.
Yeah, I actually do, so I'll let her speak at the moment, Glenn.
So just to clarify this though, that from what the data that we've got is that yes, there is less traffic going through the CBD, but they're actually taking another route around the CBD if they're not going to be going into the CBD to do their business, which is what we want. Is that how I understand it?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the report actually talks about traffic volumes. It doesn't actually specifically talk about people in the CBD, so there's a distinct difference, I think. But we did note a reduction in the traffic volumes on those streets within it, but we had an increase in the traffic on the outside streets, outside the 30k, but it talks about traffic volumes, not people per se.
And if I may add to that, one of the, when we did get some feedback from the traders, amongst those 8 people from the traders giving us feedback, they noted more foot traffic.
Okay,
Which is
thank you,
exactly
Councillor
what we
Reynolds. Councillor Bailey.
Wow. How do you add to all that? It's interesting, I approached this neutral. I really didn't have an opinion either way, and I wanted to hear all this, and I wanted to read the data and form a conclusion. And and I guess I've done that. I mean, an observation that I personally observed, I mean, and it concerned me a little in that it did seem to be a bit leading in that direction. I think Glenn might have pointed to it, mentioning the lower figure as a good issue. I felt that it wasn't a real balanced discussion that came forward, and that was something to take into account, that it was very much leading to a conclusion. And even I noticed reading some of the questions that were offered to the community seemed to be leading as well. And I think there were some comments back from the community to say these were leading questions. So it was a bit, yeah, it wasn't a real ethical approach, I thought. I think it was trying to get to a conclusion that almost appeared it was already made, and we were just trying to get this to support that. So that, I think that concerned me a little. And again, if I read back at the motion that we're actually debating, and again, I'm just looking this at face value, point 2, it is to say that we are making our decision based on the traffic data and road safety principles provided in this report. So again, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at this report, looking at the data, and making a decision. And when you look at the data that we've heard, there is again very little change, a slight decrease in traffic. It does actually mention a decrease in pedestrian movement in the report. So I thought that was interesting, that according to this report, there are less people there during this 12-month period. And then the police, I thought that was interesting, the comment from the police. And I looked at the injuries. There were 4 injuries, but 3 of them weren't within the region, because this is what I was mostly concerned about. What is the actual injuries? What is the change, the impact that this had? The one injury that occurred during this 12-month period was a cyclist not wearing a helmet who was under the influence of alcohol, who ran into a car.
How fast was he going?
Well, exactly. I think, shouldn't we be bringing in a law about cyclists here? Because that's the data that I'm alluding to. So then, I mean, so I've just, unfortunately, looking at that data and then looking at the comments from the community, I mean, again, the way the data's been presented to us, you could say it was 61% for, but when in some other areas, if you damn data, you can look at the data and actually say there were, 78% of people did not perceive it to be a positive influence. 78% not positive. So there's so many questions in there, and you can pull out the data any way you like. So, I think based on all that, and I guess finally reflecting on it all, that Mildura is unique. It's an amazing place, but we are a regional town. We're the most income-generating region of Australia, and there are a lot of outer regions. There are a lot of people who have to travel. I'm always interested in a rainy day in Mildura when the road is full. Everyone who can't work comes into town, and they call us the snails, because if it's not raining, everyone's out working. So that, to me, indicated the type of demographic that it makes up Mildura. So based on all that review and discussion, I really felt, based on the information we were being asked to assess, the data didn't support the 30-kilometre change. Certainly the community on that data we're being presented didn't support that change, and so therefore I can't support the change.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Question of clarification, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Eccles.
Mr Mayor, in our CBD structure plan, isn't there a reference to a principle of trying to get more people to come into our city by walking or by cycling? Can I have that answered, please?
Mark?
Well, it actually sits with Peter. But
Mark sat with Peter. Sat with Mark earlier.
Mark probably.
Yes. Generally speaking, there is an increased focus on pedestrian and walkability in CBDs. So, in essence, yes. That's in previous work we've done on the CBD strategy.
More of the focus was council, more than the focus of council towards pedestrians and cyclists. Yeah, thank you. That's what I thought.
I would quickly like to speak for the motion before I hand over to Helen to finish. This trial of 30 kilometres is also about forward thinking, and we're talking about creating a destination where we're talking about creating a livable city. We've got two amazing light installations about to come on board with an estimated patronage of around 200,000 people. Hopefully many of those people will fly in. And I think about the places that I go to around the country and abroad, and the things that don't stick out to me is the streets and the car parks, the walking promenades and the beautiful streets and the tree-lined areas. Those are the things that stick out in my mind, and hopefully we're creating this in our city centre as well. This is a trench of work along with many other things such as the CBD revitalisation project, the urban tree strategy, the Fee Street revitalisation. There are many things connected to this, and this is only one part of it. And I think this is a really important part of it, because this allows us to be able to traverse around our city in a safe manner. I know certainly when I reverse out these days out of a car park, I feel a hell of a lot safer at 30 k's rather than 40, and that's just my personal opinion. So I'll pass on to Helen to close the debate now.
Thanks, Mayor Wood. I certainly take on board Councillor Bailey's point and note that the third criteria in the recommendation is not mentioned, and that's community and trader sentiment. So that is a bit of an oversight for the recommendation. But that said, in response to Councillor Milne, there's absolutely no comparison with 15 and Deakin Avenue. It's accepted it's a highway major intersection, but once you enter that car park, as once you enter our CBD, there'd be no one going any more than 30 inside that space as they draw nearer to that shopping precinct. Number two.
Mr Mayor, I never said they were doing it in the car park.
Okay.
It's the highway is 60 kilometres an hour. People walk across it.
Yep, okay, that's noted.
Yep, gotcha. Also, it's not about the minority and the majority, because that's, again, only looking at one criteria and not the other two required under law by this trial. That said, I do take on board some community suggestions such as a short-term drop-off and pick-up points outside the restaurant sector, or the monitoring of scooters and disability buggies. I think they are really good suggestions come back from some of the people who provided their feedback on this. But I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but I chair the CBD Beautification Project and sit as an observer on the City Heart Board. And at a recent meeting, a statement that the CBD had never had a better atmosphere was unanimously supported by everybody around the table. Yeah. They felt that it was in a really good space, as Councillor Eckel pointed out. So in closing, Councillor Milne also said, according to the police report, there's no difference. So if there's no difference, why the resistance when we want to create a place that we travel to, that we enjoy being there, and it's not about passing through quickly? And as Councillor Wood said, we want to create a place, a destination, with our aim to make it as people-friendly as possible. And I see that as giving priority to walkers or promenaders rather than cars. So I fully support this. Thank you.
I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? All against? The motion is carried.
And can I have my vote recorded too, please? Thanks, Mr Mayor.
I think it always is, Glenn.
And myself, if I may.
You too, Troy? Yep.
Please.
Sure. Certainly. Hopefully Steph's still with us. The motion was passed, Steph. Item 15.6, amendment to C121 mild rezoning of Dalfara Road, Orimple, adoption. Recommendation that Council 1 adopt amendment C121 mild as exhibited, and 2, finalise and submit amendment C121 mild to the Minister for Planning of approval. Do I have a mover?
Happy to move that.
Councillor Milne, a seconder. Councillor Reynolds, would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Milne?
Mr Mayor, I think this is just going to make a few people very happy out there. It's been a long time coming, and it's good for our smaller towns to be able to develop, and quite a lot of people want to live in those smaller town areas. So it's a great outcome, I think, and well done to our staff for getting it through.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Item 15.7, Urban Forest Strategy. Recommendation that Council adopts the recommended responses to each submission received to the Urban Forest Strategy as presented in the submissions response table, July 2024, and 2, adopts the Urban Forest Strategy July 2024 as presented. Do I have a mover? Councillor Reynolds, a seconder. Councillor Monica. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. We've actually seen this strategy now quite a few times as it's been developed over the last, 18 months or so, I think. So it's really been a great process to have a look at when you look at how the developers of this strategy have engaged with the community, engaged with the scientific aspect and the evidence aspect of this, and what this is going to bring the community when it comes to fruition. I just want to congratulate them, and I'm really looking forward to this strategy coming together and the huge difference it's going to make to this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Healy.
Thanks, Mayor Wood. A couple of points. One is, yes, I agree with everything you said, Councillor Reynolds, but I'm really pleased to see Greening Mildura intimately involved in not only the development of this strategy, but the ongoing consultancy with those people, because they know about the species that work in this area, they know about watering techniques and bordering techniques, and as it says, it is recognised that their involvement is pivotal to the successful implementation of the strategy. I'd also, as a byline, just like to say I'm really happy to have General Manager Jenkins back in the tree box. So I know that policies like this are in good hands with his vast experience of trees and gardens. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pieri.
Mr Mayor, I don't know if it has been noted by people that a few days ago it was the hottest day ever.
2 in a row.
But this surpassed the previous one, marginally, but it's on the up. So obviously we are very exposed to climate, this dramatic climate. And cooling the city is a priority of many councils right around Australia. But what pleases me, the person who is often sceptical about lengthy reports and so on, because I always fear they end up at the bottom of the pile, but what really pleases me is how this report maps out what needs to be done where, and you can see, in fact, that the most disadvantaged areas of this community are being neglected for far too long. You can see, I won't name the areas, but they're there in the report for all to see. I came here into this council 4 years ago, and I did mention some places that I thought really deserve better attention, and this report delivers on those, so it's no longer an opinion. It's scientifically demonstrated where the tree is, where it needs to go, and importantly, it maps out a path for the next council and those beyond, because the scope of this report is long term. It is immediate, but also long term. I only hope that those who will come after us will embrace this with the same enthusiasm and the same commitment. You only have to look at one picture, the one where it shows the street in Melbourne, as it is and what it could be like. And it would make this place look absolutely thrilling. Thank you.
Thank you. And great things in the organisation, such as the Cool It Streets program, has gone from, I think it was 6 streets last year to 50 streets this year. Greening Mildura doing a fantastic job. You can see their trees popping up everywhere. And also it is National Tree Planting Day on Sunday, so please do your bit. I'll now...
Just quickly, if I can add to
Councillor Monica.
Look, just to support you, Steph, I think that's it's a legacy document, and I hope what you said is correct. But reflecting back on the 4 years we've had, this has been one of those unifying documents that all councillors have really got behind, and it's great to see that it's come this far, and I hope it is a legacy document.
Councillor Reynolds, would you like to say anything to close?
Just in closing, just briefly, you know, we all know and envy the tree-lined streets. You know, that every place has got its beautiful tree-lined streets, and we all wish we could live down one of those streets. And we associate those tree-lined streets with the wealthy. But this document says everybody deserves to have those trees, and trees are accessible to everybody. And this document makes sure that everybody has access to trees.
Well said. I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 16, urgent business, and we have no urgent business to consider tonight. Item 17, community questions. I'll now pass on to the CEO, Martin Hawson, to respond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've got a mix of online questions and questions received on the night. So we'll kick it off with the online questions, and I'll hand over to General Manager Corporate Performance, Kate.
All right, thank you. I've got, I think, 3 or 4 online questions. So the first one is from Darren Smith, and Darren's question was, many community members have provided independent research and studies that have not been considered by the council, relying solely on third-party institutions and political in-house investigations has led to skewed or inadequate research. Given our community's unique characteristics, a one-size-fits-all approach may not be suitable for us. Why won't the council consider looking beyond what is dictated by the state government or third parties, and can he provide specific actions and steps being taken to independently verify the safety and accumulative effects of activities such as chemtrails, water quality, insecticides, herbicides and 5G towers? So the reply to that is that council is really unable to provide advice on things outside our remit or area of expertise, and we will need to rely on the authoritative advice from other parties where it's certainly within council's remit. We do review a range of sources and relevant information and knowledge as it relates to that topic, and that information and knowledge is often summarised in the council reports that you will see in the agenda where there are decisions being made. I do note there is a repetition in these questions on some of these topics, like 5G towers and chemtrails. We have tried our best to cover what we call frequently asked questions on our website, so I do encourage Darren and other members of the public to have a look at the information that is provided there. Question 2, which is from J. Matthew. I keep hearing that the council takes direction from the state government and advice from third parties like Lower Murray Water. Who is liable for decisions made by council when it comes to the health and wellbeing of our community members, especially when these decisions could potentially harm us? Do you acknowledge that you have a duty of care according to the following frameworks, and how does council ensure it fulfils this duty independently of state or third party directives? And the frameworks named are, number 1, the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. Section 24 of this Act imposes a duty on the council to protect, improve and promote public health and wellbeing in its municipality. Number 2, the Environment Protection Act 2017, Victoria. This Act requires council to take reasonable steps to prevent harm to human health and the environment from pollution and waste. And the third listed document is the Mildura Rural City Council Plan 2021 to 2025. This policy outlines council's commitment to environmental sustainability and the health of its community, stating that the council will take proactive measures to address environmental health risks. So, the response to that one is that Mildura Rural City Council complies with over 100 acts and regulations, including those listed in the question and the overarching council plan. So we take these obligations very seriously, and what we have is a compliance framework that exists and that's endorsed by our Independent Audit and Risk Committee, which ensures we meet these obligations through various delegations and authorisations. For example, under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act itself, Council has over 79 different functions, duties and authorisations, which then get assigned to staff via instruments of delegation. And I guess the overarching direction is provided through the council plan, which outlines how we aim to achieve our goals. And this has an annual report, which is presented at an open council meeting to track progress. And that will happen in around September or October this year. My next question, which is from Samuel Pincus. Apologies if I've said that incorrectly. My question to the council last month was paraphrased and recorded in the minutes in the same paraphrased form. Who approved the paraphrasing? It certainly wasn't me. So the question that Samuel Pincus asked at the last council meeting included elements that breached the governance rules in that it was considered malicious, defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive, irrelevant, trivial or objectionable in language or substance. That's the quote, that's the definition out of the governance rules. Because of that, we did paraphrase the question. There is no requirement in the governance rules that we read the questions verbatim. We do try and do this, but obviously we can't do that where it would actually breach our own rules. So hopefully that satisfies Samuel. My last online question is from Robert Warburton. Robert asks, Sir, Madam, could you please advise me of the following? How many of MRCC's personnel, including the CEO and executive staff, are on the following salary bands? Robert then lists a number of salary bands that I won't refer to in detail, but it's 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 400. So the response to Robert is that generally this information is actually disclosed in our key management personnel section of our audited financial statements. Now these audited financial statements for the 23-24 year are currently being prepared and then go through an external audit. So once that external audit is completed, including the VARGO, who are the external auditors or who appoint the external auditor, give an audit opinion, this information will then be available on Council's website as part of the financial statements for 23-24. That happens in about September or October. So encourage Robert to just hold off a little bit until then, and that information will certainly be there. Otherwise, he could look at last year's, but if he's wanting the most up-to-date, that would be what we're currently preparing. I have got a couple of questions on the night, if you're happy for me to answer those before we transfer to Daryl. So my first question is from Kylie Elizabeth. Why have my questions from last month's meeting been responded to? I think Kylie means not responded to. Is that right? Yeah. So because I actually did a little check as I was sitting here, and I can see, humour me for a sec. There was a response email to a particular email address today at 1:56 and 38 PM. So Kylie, if you wanted to check that, if you don't have that reply, certainly be back in touch. So that one has been replied to. Sorry, there was 2 questions in that response that have been replied to. The last question that I have got tonight is from Linton, and we'll take that one on notice. It's about the United Nations Agenda 30. So we will come back to Linton on that.
Thanks, Kate. Now we've got a few more questions, and we'll kick it off with Daryl, who's General Manager, Infrastructure and Assets.
Yeah, so thank you. So I have a question from Scott Rawlinson, and it reads, how was Wallace Social Research Group selected to undertake the community inquiry into the 30K speed trial, which is obviously what we were talking about tonight, and at what cost? And can we have the raw data provided, please? So the response to that is the Wallace Social Research were selected in accordance with Council's procurement procedures, and that was through the e-quote process. And the actual cost was $30,000, which was funded by the state government as part of the funding requirement and the grant we received to undertake the trial. Now, the detailed data, or the de-identified data, I should say, is actually in the council report, so obviously if you've got a copy of that, it should be in the back. But we won't provide the raw data because that'll have personal information related to who responded, but essentially the details are all in the report. Thank you.
And that concludes all the questions.
Thank you. Item 18, confidential business. Can I ask if a councillor is willing to move the procedural motion of moving into confidential business? Councillor Monica, second, Councillor Milne. I'll now put the motion to vote. All in favour? The motion is carried. I'd like to thank the community members who tuned in tonight and hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And thanks for those who came in personally.